What's up, guys? Todd from zeotag.com here, and today we are talking about how to use video to help build your software business, whether that's with attracting new customers, welcoming in customers, how you engage people and get them activated, all that kind of good stuff with my friend Josh from firebuilders.io. He's got an awesome business too, and I can't wait to hear about it. He also just crossed 50 episodes on his video show, which will dive into how he got started, the tools and tricks he's using to be efficient with his time so it doesn't take all day, how he gets guests, all that kind of good stuff. So if you're looking to get more customers, increase customer engagement, increase your video views and engagement, this episode's going to be for you. And of course, if you want to get your videos auto-transcribed, make them fully searchable and easy to navigate, head over to zeotag.com right now to get your account. And without further ado, Josh, welcome to the show.
Hola, amigo. What's going on? Good to be here.
Yeah, man. So before we dive into the video stuff, kind of give us a little background on like you as an entrepreneur and kind of what Fire Builders is and what you guys have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so it's a pleasure to be here. I've been out on my own for probably 5 years now. I had an office job before that, but during that office job, I was doing nothing but building apps. That's all I did was build iPhone and Android apps and just cut my teeth there. And just so that you know, I'm not actually the one that's doing the coding. I know just enough coding, but you have other people that help you out because there's so much other stuff to worry about. So I've been in that world. I've been in marketing for a long time. I saw problems that I thought that I could solve myself with software. Things that I just, pretty much needed for myself for the most part, or the people that are close around me. And I started solving problems, and then those ideas grew into being able to monetize them. So that's kind of how I started. And Fire Builders is a way that coaches and consultants can take their personal attention and scale it across all of their clients on a daily basis. So it helps hold them accountable, drive action and attention every single day, and gives them some incredible feedback on how people are actually applying their teachings. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I was in a very early like MVP version of it, and it's really cool. So we talked right before we hit record here about different types of ways that you're using video to help grow your business. So why don't you touch on just a few of the different places where you're hitting the record button?
Yeah, certainly. And by the way, speaking of video and recording, I'm sorry if you're hearing roosters in the background. I don't know if you can pick that up, but I'm sure that you will. I'm in Key West right now, and they are everywhere. So video is important in a lot of different aspects. Right now, I have a show called Fire Builders Live, and like you said, we've just hit 50 episodes. In fact, today technically was the 50th episode, which is insane.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It started out as an experiment. The first episode aired on April 17th, and I've been doing it 6 days a week since then. And I've learned a lot. I screwed up big time, like really early on with a bunch of stuff. But really, the consistency of the video is the biggest game changer that I've seen. It's really like I've always done video. You do a couple here and there, and maybe you get some marginal traction, but it waxes and wanes. With this, because I've been doing it so consistently, people are now starting to look forward to it. They're messaging me and saying that they enjoy checking out the story and seeing who the guest is going to be. I try to keep it as consistent as possible, both in days and times of airing. And the actual video itself, it's all Facebook Live. We use StreamYard to stream it to two places simultaneously, and then from there it goes downstream, all these crazy automations that I'm sure we'll talk about here a little bit.
Yeah. So what? Let's talk about like the premise of the show, and like how did you come up with the idea that you wanted to start doing this book, and how did you come up with like you were going to do it that many times a week?
It wasn't premeditated. It was so the premise of the app Fire Builders itself is all about daily consistent habit building, right? You know, if you want to learn how to surf, if you want to learn how to take better pictures, if you want to take better care of yourself and improve your gut health, you know, whatever it ends up being, it's about doing little things daily, consistently. And as we were building out, I've built 2 MVPs of this software, and we got to a point now where we had paying customers for both of those. We said, now it's time to build our own app, but it takes a while. Anybody that's built an app knows it just development takes some time. Well, I needed a way to keep the interest up, to keep the brand going, to, you know, make sure that Fire Builders was in people's heads. And I also wanted to help coaches out. I wanted to help consultants out. I wanted to provide a platform for them so that they would have a place to spread their message. And so it just kind of was a win-win for me. I had this idea, but really between ideation and actual execution was probably 2 days.
Wow.
And my very first guest came on. I tried my best to interview them. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, but all I knew is that we're just going to take big goals and we're going to break them down into small, consistent steps, things that you can do every day. And really the whole premise of the show is to take a really big goal. Like, for instance, today's episode was about finding limiting beliefs, right? And getting rid of those, stopping you from like living up to your potential. But I take things like that, because you hear it all the time, all over the internet. But I take things like that and I break them down into what's the most important thing. If you're just going to get started, what would you do every day for the next couple of days just to get yourself started? And that's what all of these guests come on and talk about.
That's awesome, man. I love that. And so is every day a guest, or do you do some solo shows?
Well, so every day is a guest except 2. So 48 of them have been guests. 2 of them were solo. 1 because it was Memorial Day and I couldn't get anybody to come onto the show. and then the other day, because it's a live show, sometimes you just have to like shuffle things around at the last minute.
Yeah.
And I had to shuffle some things around, and so I said, oh, you know, maybe it would be a good show to talk about the back end and how I actually make this happen on a daily basis.
Yeah. So let's talk about, like, okay, you have a show that you're doing these interviews with, and you have people come on and teach very practically what it is that they're doing. So how have you gotten and managed and wrangled 48 guests in like 55 days or something like that?
Well, at the very beginning, I used my own network. I made a spreadsheet and I listed all of these people that I knew, and I thought to myself, what would I want to learn from them? And I reached out to a couple of them, and that kind of kickstarted the whole thing, right? It was just one after another. And at the early stages, man, it was so sporadic. Like, you know, I had one person on one day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then another one could do it at like 10 a.m., but it was 2 days later. And it wasn't until people started reaching out and saying, yeah, I love the concept, but can you just make it consistent? Like, can you just make it on the same time, or try to? And so I like I said, it wasn't premeditated. I didn't think about, I need to get all of these guests and I need to get guests every day. But as I started to do the show, people started to actually reach out to me instead of me having to go chase them down. And I found that I could fulfill it. I could do 6 days a week. It reminded me of like John Lee Dumas, like way back in the early days, where he was just like, screw it, man. We're going to do 7 podcast episodes in one day and just crank them out for the week. But I think in the process of doing that makes you better at the thing that you're trying to learn. Can I swear on this show?
Yeah, sure.
I knew fuck all about what it took to be a good host and a good interviewer. And just like learning a language, the best way is to immerse yourself. I said to myself, man, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it 6 days a week and get better at it, try and do it as rapid as possible and immerse myself. And so that's.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, you know, just taking that action and getting started, and that's kind of how the Zeotag show started and kind of stays alive, is that it's just super lean. Like, we just hop on Skype with like, you know, my super simple setup here. And I just knew from day one, like we needed to be putting out video content and just putting out valuable information to get people coming to see us and to help add value to people who are doing video. And I'm like, you know what, like, yeah, could we get like some fancy jingle and an intro voiceover and like splash logo animations and fancy lower thirds? It's like, yeah, you could do all that, but like really it's all about the substance of the episodes and taking action, right? And everything is going to suck when you first start it, right? Like that's just how anything in life works 99% of the time. And so just getting started and taking those actions. And obviously it's like also drinking your own Kool-Aid, where like that's the whole premise of your business and the premise of your show is like, how do you take these monster things and just break them down and get started, right? And so it's funny, right before we got on, my wife has no idea that like who you are or what we're talking about right now. And she just asked me, she's like, hey, she's like, do you have a copy of Atomic Habits? Because I just bought it on Audible. And I'm like, and Atomic Habits is like, if you haven't read it, but it's the same thing. It's breaking down everything into tiny steps and getting started and just like doing the work consistently to get better. And eventually like you won't suck. And then you suck so little that you're actually good, right? Like,
right. Yeah, totally. And it's like my favorite quote of all time is the work teaches you the work.
Yeah.
Like you do it in order to learn how to do it instead of trying to learn how to do it before actually just putting yourself out there and doing it.
Yeah. So what time is this show and how long does it run? And like, how did you kind of come up with those things? Like, was that scientific or are you just like, this is the most available time for my guests?
Honestly, so it's at noon every day, Eastern Standard Time. And I didn't know, I just picked it at random. It worked for my schedule. It seems to be an easy thing to convey to other people. And I figured maybe you're on a lunch break or something. And, you know, people on the East Coast, they could take a break and watch it. People on the West Coast, maybe they're eating breakfast and they could catch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just kind of at random. And then, you know, honestly, to answer your question from previously, because I don't feel like I really answered it, how I got all of these guests, it really did. It started off slow, but people started reaching out. But that ends up dying down. Like there's only so many people in your network that you feel like could be appropriate. I think that if anybody's out there listening that is contemplating on doing something like this, but feel like they don't know anybody that would be able to come on immediately, I would say you know more people than you think you do if you just take the time and write down those folks. But what I started to do at around maybe like episode 30 or 35 is that everybody that came on, I would, at the end of the show, say, hey, who is the most interesting person that you know, and would they be a good fit for the show? And people like that question. Some people just off the top of their heads, they're like, oh, this person, you got to talk to them.
Yeah.
And then some people say, I don't know, that's a good question, follow up with me, whatever. I would say that the majority of the guests thus far, from like 35 on, have been really cool introductions that I got from just asking that one simple question at the end of the show.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I love that. And the referrals always make it easy. You know, and another tip that I'll throw out there for how I've gotten some pretty good guests are, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and what I'll do is, like, oftentimes podcast hosts, if they have a large show, are kind of tough to get in touch with. But a lot of the guests who come on are not necessarily like big business celebrities or whatever you want to call it, social influencers, where they're like, you know, bombarded with messages. So I'll screenshot and share on Instagram and tag them, but I'll always share on social. I'll share an episode and I'll tag the guest, and 99% of the time the guest replies, and then I use that to start a conversation. And then because obviously I listened to the episode and enjoyed it, then I start a conversation around like, oh, that was great when you said this or that. And then I say, like, I actually have a show too, and I think you'd be a great guest. And at that point, like, we've had a nice little conversation, and they're super excited to come on. So that's another tip I have for getting guests is, like, look for people who are guesting on other shows, and just when you hear them, reach out, tell them you appreciated it, show you that you paid attention, and that's a good way to get people on too.
Dude, that's guerrilla warfare. I love that. I'm totally using that.
Yeah.
That's an amazing tip.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then once you start getting, you know, those guests, then the hosts of those guests will pay attention, and they're like, oh, you had those two people on? Like, yeah, I'll come on the show. Like, I know them, you know, so it's spiraled up, like, in a pretty cool way. So it's a good way to, like, network your way into some good relationships.
Totally, man. And I feel like a lot of the guests I thought were going to be so, not untouchable is the wrong word, but out of my league kind of thing. You say to yourself, why in the world would they want to come on my like rink-a-dink show?
Right.
And it turns out that like I feel that it's less about the followers and the number of listeners. It's more about whether or not you're a decent conversationalist and you make the guests feel comfortable and they enjoy talking to you.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm curious actually what you found as far as like being able to hold a conversation, anything that you found that has helped you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's just about having guests that you're interested in. Like, you and I obviously have a relationship going back like a few years now, and we've been friends for a while. So I know we can hop on and like we just have good conversations. And because all of the guests that I've had so far are either from my network who I know like we're like, if we were having coffee and there was a camera on us, it would be a valuable conversation. So that's one. Or two, like I said, like I've already heard them on other podcasts talking about stuff that I love talking about. And I'm like, dude, like the way I listen to podcasts and why I subscribe to things are because it makes me feel like I'm hanging out with people who I enjoy like the conversation that's going on. So I'm like, I've been sitting in the room with that person when they were talking about like cool things, and I would love to be able to jump in. So then I know like when I reach out to them, I know that we're just going to be able to riff off different topics and go off. So like that's kind of how I do it. And to me, like, I forget if it's, I apologize to whoever I'm offending on this one, but it's either Marines or Navy SEALs. And they say like, stay ready, don't get ready. And so I think if you stick to the topics that like you're passionate about, you have some expertise or a really deep curiosity in, like that's going to drive those really quality conversations that are worth listening to.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, it's so transparent when you listen to podcasts or videos where the person interviewing, one, has no idea what this person really does, and two, even if they do, they're not interested in the least about this, and it just, oh man, it's just agonizing to sit through.
Like your show's great. I really enjoy like having it on and listening while I'm doing other stuff. Like that's how I listen to my shows, and hopefully some people think that same about this show, but I couldn't be a good host of like a woodworking show or something, right? Like, cause I don't know anything about woodworking. It's not like my deal, like, or something random, but like, I'm sure there's plenty of really great woodworking podcasts that people have that are really fun to listen to, but like, I wouldn't be a good host there. So you have to know your fit. And like, that's why I say like, stay in your lane and like, know the stuff that like you can riff on easily and have fluid conversations. And that's going to be the best kind of episodes, I think.
As I've done this now, I've found a pattern where it takes people at least 15 minutes, sometimes maybe a little bit less, but at least 15 minutes for the most part for people to open up and feel really comfortable, especially on the live shows. Yeah. And so I've started to, at first I tried to make these things as short as possible because I was like, people listening, I wanted to be respectful of their time, but started to realize that if you ask the good questions too early, you don't get the answers that you're looking for. Yeah. And you need to warm the person up. And so that's what I'm finding is that now our episodes are going like 40, 50 minutes and it feels smooth because just kind of have that warm up.
And that's exactly why we got you into Zeotag, so you could start using that. And when people watch your episodes on the Fire Builders blog, they can jump down right to those sections when it starts getting good, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Like just go right to the meat of the call.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely agree. Especially when it's someone that's like you haven't had a previous relationship with, where they're just warming up and kind of figuring things out too. I think that's super important. But so
and the live, the live thing, the fact that it's live and to everybody that's listening, like, obviously live in my experience is the easiest because it's live, it's done. I really like whenever I'm on a podcast or something, I'm curious as to how I did, how it sounded. I don't know if anybody else does that, but when I do stuff like this, I like re-listen to it just to see if I sounded like an idiot. And so what I like about the lives is that you have that instant feedback. And that's one of the things that I try to provide people at the very end of the show. Like within 20 minutes, they have they have the Facebook link, a YouTube link, and the Google Drive file for this, like raw, so they can cut it all up and do whatever they want.
When you say people, you mean your guests?
Yeah, guests.
Yeah, yeah. And we can maybe get into that process in a minute. But you mentioned the live thing. I love doing. I have another show that I used to do that was a live show, and I love that too. Like, you just jump on, you do it, and then it's done, and like like you're all set. Like, so how do you get viewers on the live? Like, now you're 50 episodes in, there's people paying attention, they know that you're coming up, but like, how did you get those initial people watching and getting that engagement during the episodes?
Well, I don't have one real specific tactic, but one thing that I did do that I spent a lot of time on was I made sure that I wrote really great intros, like descriptions for the live, you know, things that everything that you and I know about marketing, right? Trying to hook people in and making sure that it's about them. What am I going to learn if I spend some time with this person? I really spent time doing that. And also just the act of doing that is flattering for the guest. And so they come onto the live way more apt to be open, to be funny, to be laughing. I think then people see that as they're scrolling through all of the smiles and all of the like holy shit, like what are they doing? They're having so much fun. Like, let me hop on. Yeah. And then it was just almost contagious. So that's all I got. I don't have some crazy like algorithm hack or anything. It was just create good content.
Yeah. And I think it's harder too, like if you have a weekly show, you can do some pre-promotion where you say like, hey, Monday you can send out an email that says on, Thursday morning when we go live with Josh and we're going to be talking about this and whatever. And then you can have like a post-show follow-up. Hey, if you missed it, here's the replay. But if you have a show 6 days a week, it starts to feel very spammy to be sending out that kind of mass like promotion. So is there anything you do outside of like the daily, like you're just going live and turning it on, but are you doing any kind of like weekly recap or weekly preview of what's to come or anything like that in email or other or just on social?
I used to do a weekly like pre-cap, right? Yeah. So I would prime everybody for all the guests.
Yep.
But to be honest, it didn't seem like it was gaining that much traction for the amount of work. And so I just said, you know what? It'll just be a surprise. Like, just tune in. It's every day. Like, so it'll just be a surprise. Just trust me that we're going to get good people and interesting guests. And then so what I end up doing is I take these episodes and I put them on YouTube and they're on Facebook. I also put them on to Instagram, or at least a link to them on Instagram. And then I push them to our blog. So we have a Fire Builders blog associated with the software. And so they're on there. And from that, it goes to Medium and it also goes to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is another, like, for me, untapped resource. I'm really starting to look heavy into what LinkedIn has to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not something I've been able to capitalize on. Just I've spent so much time maximizing results in the other channels that I haven't gotten there yet either.
Yeah, and just recently, like honestly, episode 46 maybe might have been the very, very first one. But the whole podcasting thing we were talking about earlier, like this wasn't a podcast at all. It was just a Facebook Live and a video interview.
Yeah,
and I had a friend and we were discussing the shelf life of these Facebook Lives. It's relatively short.
Yeah,
and to extend that, I started putting them all onto podcasts, and now not all of them are up there yet, but now there's a podcast people can listen to on their way to work, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the repurposing and reuse of stuff, right? Like that's why out of the gate I was like, we need to start producing video, because video can be turned into audio, can be turned into written, right? But it's very hard to do it the other way around. And so, just by building up your video library, you're creating just an infinite number of assets that can get repurposed. And we have a partner in Shayna at Repurpose House. We've done a couple episodes together and done some webinars together, and that's exactly what they do. Is they take the full episode and they chop it up into a bunch of little clips and tips and all that stuff, and then distribute it across all the social channels. And I think, yeah, like when, especially you said, you're not doing the coding because there's so much other stuff to do. Like we all have so much other stuff to do. So like, how can you be like, Mike, what's his name? Mike Michalowicz, he calls it like the queen bee role. Like what can you do? What's like your strength that you can focus your time to create the most value that no one else can do, and then that can be turned into other value by other people. And to me, I think that's the video content from the source is that lead domino that makes everything else easier, makes everybody else's job easier, and just creates like an infinite amount of value.
Totally, man. And as far as that queen bee reference, like, we had to make a decision really early on. By say we, like David Stack, co-founder of Fire Builders, and I, like we were discussing this, and I had to make a decision on, do we make these lives from Fire Builders, like the software, or do we make it from Josh? And we ended up landing on Josh because, I mean, nothing really comes to mind for some company that I feel the same way, like watching their content, if there's some ambiguous company as opposed to one particular person.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I can develop a relationship with that person. I'm not going to develop a relationship with like slack.com,
right.
So so that's why we did it that way. And to be honest, I don't know how we'll transition out of it at this point. Like, but I'm sure we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But I
agree with you, though. I mean, that's really the premise on how I advise all marketing to be, is from a person, to be humanized, right? I mean, that's what I preach to people is, when it comes to emails and sending emails, like never use an info at or support at, like should come where the email address is Todd at, and the name says Todd at whatever company. So like, you're not, there's like, people see a company, they can choose to ignore it. But when it's a person, they feel like a slight more like interested in like, oh, this person took time to do something, create something, I need to check it out. And I think that, and the relationship too, right? Like, I think that's a huge thing. And I think when you get to the point where you want to transition into it being coming from Fire Builders, I think it'll be easier to do that because you'll have the audience, and you can easily say to people like, hey guys, this is starting to get bigger than just me as Josh, and so we're going to start hosting it over on Fire Builders, and you can easily send people like from your personal network and audience and just and reshare from Fire Builders or something, however it ends up being the process. But I think that's going to be a lot easier, and people will still respect it and be more resonate more with it, knowing that it's coming from a person.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. And maybe, who knows, maybe we'll never do it. Maybe it'll always be from Josh, and I'll just continue to do this for the next couple of years. I don't know. But all I know is that I didn't think that I would have this much fun doing it. I'm really enjoying it. For as much work as it is, trying to pull all these guests together 6 days a week, it's like once that little live button goes on, I just click on, and you're just focused, and nothing else matters. Yeah.
I think that's a great, I mean, we're not live right now, we are recording, but I still feel like it's the most present that you can be, right? Like, even when you're having meetings, like you're still thinking of other stuff, notifications might go off or like whatever, but like when you're having a live conversation one-on-one with someone, like with this much intention, like it's definitely like the deepest work that I do all day is when I get on and like have live conversations where we get into stuff that's really fun and engaging.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing. And I'm by nature just a really curious person, and so I think one of the strengths of the whole thing is that somebody can come on that's done TEDx talk with millions and millions of views, is expert on XYZ, or somebody could come on and just like, I don't know, be a pogo champion, or something like that, like a pogo stick champion or whatever, but it doesn't matter, because we're going to find something interesting to talk about. And I like learning from people. So it just fits my personality.
Yeah. So you started this obviously for fire builders to help with the show, and you said when you were starting, it was like you were between MVP and real and live product, and so you needed a way to kind of keep the brand engagement going with your audience. So how has it helped impact the fire builders business, and how has that maybe improved, or what have you changed to improve it over the course of 50 episodes?
Yeah, well, it's helped a lot. One, I think just from a branding standpoint, it's pushed the Fire Builders brand out there. So now people know about it. They're talking about it, at least more than they were before. So that to me is a huge win. And then also a lot of the relationships that I'm developing with the guests will end up most likely being candidates to use the software. I mean, everybody's really teaching something. Not everybody on the show, but for the most part, those would be people that I would reach out to and say, is this something that you'd be interested in, and get some really good testimonials, some feedback, some case studies, because now it's cool because we've developed a relationship. And I hate to say, I don't want it to sound like we're using this as a tool to just sell more software. Honestly, if I didn't have even if I didn't have the software, I probably would have been doing this anyway.
Yeah.
But it just helps. It just helps get to know the person, get to know what it is that they're teaching, how they view the world, how they view their clients, and that's really the essence of what the software does. So it's just, to me, it's just a perfect synergy of those two things.
Yeah, I think that's the real secret of podcasting, is that the relationships that you get with the guests end up being more valuable, or as valuable as just for having the show, makes having a show worth it. Even if your show gets no views, I think it's a great way to develop relationships with people. And it's almost like an accelerated relationship building too, where it's not like a rinky-dink 15-minute phone call of someone was like, oh, hey, you two should connect or whatever. But like, you really do dive into topics because you want to, you both want to provide value to the audience. And so you get deep and discover more things about each other. And I think that's a super cool way to develop relationships with new people.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, honestly, if I wasn't doing this from Key West, I mean, I was in the middle of a cross-country motorcycle trip when this whole lockdown thing happened, which is why I'm here. Yeah. Otherwise, I would have just taken this on the road and interviewed people along the way. Great way. I don't know about you, but I love the fact that I can start a conversation with someone and be like, yeah, I've got a show. I would love for you to be on. Like, it just provides an opportunity to get to know people on a level that I never had before.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So you touched on before, like, how much time a lot of this stuff takes, and I know you're like a big time systems and tools person. So let's, what I'm interested to hear, like, first, what were the first phase, like 10 episodes, like how did you do those, and what did you learn and wish you knew sooner to make it easier?
Oh, good question. Let's see. First 10 episodes, everything was manual. I had no idea what I was doing. I was trying to just figure it out, trying to figure out how to follow up with guests, what to give them, what would be useful, try to keep the fire alive, no pun intended, and strike while the iron was hot. Try to, well, honestly, the background that you see here, this is the current background, but I did the first like 25, maybe 30 episodes from this tiny little camp chair, right, sitting on this deck right over there in the corner, and so just getting out there, doing it, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But the big thing was the follow-up. That was when you talk about automations, like, that was the number one thing that I had to figure out. Was I knew that I wanted to follow up with these guests. I knew that I wanted to follow up with them quickly, but I needed a reason to do so, and I needed it to be in like an automated way, in a sense that I didn't have to rewrite the email every single time. It gave them exactly what they needed. So I figured that out. That was the first thing I figured out. And my current system is that as soon as the live is over, I download the video from Facebook onto my computer, and I upload it to both Google Drive and YouTube, right? So that just happens immediately. and I get all of those links. And what I've done, because I use ActiveCampaign, for those that are unfamiliar with ActiveCampaign, it's just a way like to make automated emails. And I've created a template and an automation and custom fields for every contact, so that I take those links and I paste them into the custom fields. And then I also write a thing or two about what I really liked about it, the episode, and how much I appreciate it. So it's like a more personalized thing. And that all happens within custom fields. And then I just simply tag them, like put them into an automation, and everything is sent. It's all branded. The links are populated. The customization is in there. I have something about the software in case, to sign up on the wait list, right? All of that just rolls out. So that was the first thing I had to figure out.
Yeah. And so what are, you said, I think you said somebody had given you a couple tool tips that really made a big difference. Who was that, and what were the tips that you got?
Well, so I had a guy named Jonathan. He does a lot of podcasts, and he taught me a little bit about the podcasting side of things, because I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
But you really need to do only 3 things to get a YouTube video onto a podcast. You have to get the audio, right? Like essentially it's extracted from the video. Yeah. You have to level it, right? So clean it up a little bit. And that means like you and I are talking, but maybe because of microphone things, our voices aren't quite the same decibel level and stuff. So he showed me a tool called an Auphonic leveler, and I just download it to my computer. I run it through this leveler. It uses AI to do all the leveling. It tacks on an intro and an outro, right, for files that I've pre-specified, and then it converts it to MP3. And then all I have to do is just drop that right into Anchor. I have all of my description and everything already written from the Facebook Live, and so I put that into Anchor, hit publish, and within 20 minutes it's just
everywhere
out in the ether.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we've been talking about fire builders this whole time, but you also do this other thing, and I don't know if there is a specific cadence to your consistency, but right after this call you're doing your 3 Amigos. So what's the 3 Amigos thing, and that's another video show kind of thing that you got going on?
Yeah, 3 Amigos. 3 Amigos is myself and my 2 friends, Ryan Lee and Travis Spiegel. And what we've done is we have combined our forces, and we teach people like how to build better businesses. The reason that what makes us different than everybody else teaching business is that Ryan has been doing this for the last 20 years. He's extremely well respected in the industry. He's like Entrepreneur Magazine's #1 lifestyle entrepreneur. Travis Spiegel does probably now he's up to like $35 million in Facebook ad spend management. Like all kinds of massive clients go to him for Facebook ads. He's the guy. And then for me, I just build funnels. I've been building funnels, doing the automations and creating funnels for people. We didn't really touch on this, but I have another software called Funnel Mappy that I made because I needed to map it, visualize all the stuff out, keep all the strategic details of each funnel in one place. And we actually use Funnel Mappy in these 3 Amigos calls to do spotlights. We call them spotlights. We map people's stuff out in real time. We show them executable steps, and we can tackle it from all 3 angles. The idea, like the hook, this business strategy, that's all Ryan. The automations, how to actually build it, that's all me. And then how to drive traffic to it, that's all Travis. So, it's just a cool little, it's just a fun thing that we're doing for people.
Yeah, I love it. And I always, even if I just have it on for like 7 minutes or something, I always get like at least one golden nugget from you guys. So I definitely recommend everybody checking that show out too. And so how did you guys, is that just like a fun little hobby thing? Like you guys just jump on together and go live, or is there, I'm leading into the question of like, is that coming from your personal pages, or like, is there a business or brand behind it? And how did you decide on that?
Yeah, it started out like just doing it from my personal page, because that's where StreamYard was connected to. Mm-hmm. Ryan, Travis, and I are all really big fans of just moving fast, acting quickly, putting it out there. I know you are too. So, so what we did was we did a first call where we made it an event. We did a live event, and we charged $99 for the ticket for like a 6 hour. We were on there for like 6 hours, and then we recorded it and packaged that up as its own product. But on the back end of that, we said, look, this was so popular that we, and it really was. I think that for our first event, we had maybe 80 some people, right, join.
Nice.
So it was like decent, and what we did was we said, if you'd like to do this more often, we'll just do it 2 times a month. We'll spotlight people. We'll do the exact same format, and we turned it into a membership, so just pay. It's $99 and you just pay, every month, and you get to be involved in this, and we get to break down your stuff, and you get the funnel maps and everything. That's the cool thing about funnel mapping. You can just share that stuff and have it interactive and clickable. That's like a little bonus tip here at the end that what I wasn't expecting, but it's like 3 guys who like basically what we talked about, like enjoy getting on these conversations and have a specific skill set that help people with a problem. In this case, it's building a business, and you're jumping on doing lives and chat and stuff, and you just come up with like, hey, this could just actually be a product, and now all of a sudden you have a subscription business that's running. Like that's just like a fun side thing for all 3 of you guys, and now you have, you're hopping on having good conversations, and you're getting paid for it. yeah, exactly. Like and helping people. I mean, really, for me, and Ryan and Travis would agree, like we could just do that all day long. We love talking with people, love helping people in real time. But we weren't sure if it was going to work. Hell, like we're still not sure if it's going to work. But it's a lot of fun. We're not trying to be scammy. We're not trying to, throw these like, become the $1 million, align with industry titans kind of thing. It's not that at all. It's like almost the exact opposite of that. Yeah. Very much like what you propose people do. It's like you got to have fun. You got to put your personality into it. You have to, have a skill that you can teach people. But it's about you. It's about what you can bring, the energy that you bring. It's the same thing with those guys. So it's just cool. Yeah,
super cool, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for jumping on. A lot of value in here. Just learning about like getting started, and I also want to be able to help people understand like getting over that hump of like when you do start something and it does suck and it feels like everything's manual and it's a pain and you don't want to get over it. Like 10 episodes in, a lot of people quit. A lot of people don't even make it to 10 episodes, and yet like here you are like really getting into a stride at 50 episodes and starting to see real traction for the business, and obviously like super cool. So where can people, find out more about you? Where can they find out more about Fire Builders and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, Facebook is probably the best. Just Josh Corpel, Koerpel. Fire Builders can be found at firebuilders.io, and the 3 Amigos, in case anybody's interested in that, it's 3amigoslive.com. But really, like my exploits, all of the stuff that I'm doing in Key West, I do a lot of photography and a lot of traveling and stuff. Like I said, I was doing this motorcycle trip. God knows if I'm going to be able to continue it. I don't know. I might just be here for the next couple of months. But that's all on Instagram. Saltwater CEO is the handle.
All right, awesome. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on, and everybody, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget that if you're putting out videos and you want to get them auto-transcribed, make them fully searchable and easy to navigate, head over to zeotag.com to get your account right now, and we'll see you on the next episode.